Good morning, MacLaren. Today is Wednesday, March 25th, 2020. The weather today looks fabulous. Sunshine to start, then a few afternoon clouds. High of 64 degrees. Winds blowing west-southwesterly at 10 to 20 miles an hour. The sun rose this morning at 6:53 a.m. and will set at 7:16 p.m. On this date, March 25th, in the year 1655, Saturn's largest moon, Titan, was discovered by a scientist named Christian Huygens. Christian Huygens was Dutch from the Netherlands, and he is widely regarded as one of the greatest scientists of all time. He made major contributions in optics and astronomy, and he was an inventor and a mathematician, physicist. Um, and so not only did he discover Titan, which is I think it's the second largest satellite, the second largest moon in the solar system, but you probably know him best as the inventor of the pendulum clock. So in the 17th century, the 1600s, he invented that kind of iconic type of clock that keeps time by swinging a pendulum, a grandfather clock. And that became the most accurate way of keeping time for hundreds of years. Okay, something that I want you all to keep in mind as we go through this strange time together is that hardship is not new to humanity. Human beings have gone through all manner of pandemics and wars and natural disasters. These are part of the human story. And one that happened very recently in our country, it was before you were born, but not that long ago in my life, was Hurricane Katrina. Hurricane Katrina struck the coastline of the American South in August 2005, and it was a disaster. It caused major flooding in Louisiana and the city of New Orleans in particular, and it was just heartbreaking and angering and distressing to watch. But out of every disaster, there are always incredible stories of goodness, decency, courage, generosity, and sacrifice. And I want to tell you about one of those. A man named Carl Balau was a 10th generation New Orleanian. That means his family had lived in New Orleans, his parents, 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 for 10 generations had lived in New Orleans. Now, Carl Balau was a competitive cyclist, and he was actually out of the country when the hurricane struck. And he flew back, arrived in Mississippi where his car was in storage, and he filled it up with supplies and drove back to his hometown of New Orleans. The army was actually telling people to stay out of the city, so Carl Balau had to sneak back in. He drove to his house, which was in a part of the city that hadn't flooded, and he rescued his cat. And he drove around his neighborhood, and what he saw was a lot of people and pets who had not been able to leave. They were old, they were sick, they were walking around feeling abandoned, and he started giving them rides to safety. Um, Pretty soon, he saw that he wasn't going to be able to do this with a car. And so he went out, he got a kind of small boat with a flat bottom meant for navigating swamps. And he started paddling around. At first, he didn't even have a real paddle, he was using a broomstick to paddle around the city. And he would um, not sail, but paddle around the city and just listen for people calling for help, and and then would ferry them to safety. People would come out and get into his boat. They didn't know who he was, and they would say, "Where are you taking me?" And Bilal didn't even know. He would just say, "A better place." He had friends who were scouring the internet for messages from people saying, please check on my loved ones here, please rescue my pet there. And all day and all night, he paddled through the wreckage of the city. And the city was devastated. Even the birds had disappeared. So you can imagine it would have been so quiet paddling around this flooded city. And when people were trapped and needed to be rescued, he would hear them in the silence of the city. Some people had been so alone for a few days that they were afraid they didn't even trust him. And so he would talk to them, and to prove that he meant them well, he would come back to check on them and bring back food. It was very hard on him. And by the seventh day, he was feeling very low. He was hungry himself, and he was ready to be done. So he planned to stop helping people, and was telling this family of 10 that he was helping that they were his last trip. And an elderly woman grabbed him by the arm and she said, you can't leave. These are your people, and there's more of them out there. And he said later, that kind of grabbed me and turned me around. And so he went back to his list of addresses that had been sent to him and kept going. In the end, Carl Balau's efforts have been credited with saving more than 400 lives. And the Louisiana State Museum has put his boat on permanent display. So all of you, please keep tending to your victory gardens. Keep a pleasant schedule, keep a good routine, get fresh air and plenty of exercise. Be helpful to your family. Please don't squabble with your siblings. If it is your birthday today, March 25th, 2020, happy birthday. I hope you have a day of kindness, friendliness, and peace. My friends, we are all in this together. We will see you next time.